Myer Power Driven Diesel here. Today we're going to go over the install of one of our new products, and that is our Power Driven branded 48RE transmission pans, and it's going to go into Todd's tow truck Ruby. So first step to unboxing something of this caliber, you don't just use a knife, you use a knife.
That's not a knife. That's a knife.
Go ahead and open this guy up here. Got our pan gasket. So we got some hardware here. We've got your 14 pan bolts that'll hold it to the pan to the transmission. We've got a filter spacer here. So this is a half depth spacer. So it puts that filter a little deeper into the pan, but not all the way to where it would catch debris. But because it is deeper, your transmission will be a lot better for it. Like, won't cavitate. If you're rock climbing or something at weird angles, that filter is going to be further into the pan. It's not going to grab air. Whereas a stock pan or a pan that doesn't have one of these might start cavitating. We've also got the hardware, and then we've got your 1/8 inch MPT and 1/4 inch MPT plugs and magnetic drain plug. That way, obviously you got plugs. That way, if you're not using any transmission temp sensors or anything, you can use the plugs to plug it. Otherwise, you just put your sensor in its place. Last but not least, the Power Driven branded 48RE pan, and it works on your 47 RHs and 518s and all that stuff. But here's the pan here. It's got ribs on the inside. We have a product video for this, but one of my favorite parts is the lack of ribs on this side for your full manual valve bodies, and we got those sensor ports away from the bolts. That way, when you're sitting there running your bolts in and out doing your services, you don't have to remove your sensors or use some ball and hex driver or anything. So it should be a really simple install, and we'll get to it. Okay guys, so normally you would probably be starting with a stock pan. You wouldn't have this very convenient feature called a drain plug. So I'm gonna pretend like this doesn't exist, make a whole mess just to kind of show you guys the tips and tricks. Obviously you can see we're swapping out this papa with a little bit of putta duh. So we'll get this going. The bigger the drain pan, the better. Start, and you're gonna go all the way around the transmission, but you're gonna leave one bolt in on the back and 2 bolts in the front. So we'll go ahead and get those off. Why? Go away!
It's upstairs.
Yes. Now we got like this viewing mezzanine that lets everyone watch me work. Because they're not familiar with what that looks like! That was Griff, my favorite. So, what we're gonna do here is we're going to loosen up the front 2 bolts first. You won't have to do this on a stamp pan because the lip will flex enough, but this being a billet pan, we're gonna loosen up a little bit. Like that. Now we're gonna just loosen up the back. Kind of supporting it. Kind of like that. And then once it kind of slowed down like that, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and pull the bolt all the way out. And just slowly let that back down so it can drip out more and more. Again, normally this would be a stamped pan, so it would dip down a little bit more than that. You can get a lot more out. You can kind of slosh it around, get it pretty close to empty, get it pretty light, and then just hold it up, take the bolts out, and drop it all down. We're gonna attempt that just for the grins, but it's probably gonna become a disaster. I'm doing this for you. Honestly, not too bad. If I can do that, you guys can do it with a stock pan. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and dump this guy here. Again, if it's a stock pan, it probably wouldn't have this much in it. You guys may have just witnessed the first person to ever not use a drain plug. Earth shattering. There we go. We're going to drop the filter down because we're going to replace this, and we're just going to let that transmission drain for a second That way we can get all the fluid out, or as much as we can out. And then that way we're putting as much fresh fluid back in. Excuse me. While that's draining, we're gonna go ahead and get the new pan ready. And so all we're gonna do to get this pan ready for install is we're going to put a little bit of thread locker on the, I call it thread locker. It's 545 thread sealant on the bungs here, on these two temp sensor bungs. It doesn't believe in transmission temperature gauges, so we're not putting any of those guys in here. Just like that. And then we'll tighten those down. Like that. And then this guy here. Perfect. Go ahead and wipe up any extra. And then for this guy, because he has an O-ring, we're not going to use any kind of thread sealant. We're just going to go ahead and take a dip from the old tranny pan and get a little bit of lube on there. Just like that. There we go. This guy's ready for install. You shouldn't have to do this if you have a stock pan, but we're just going to remove the filter spacer that came with the old pan. All factory hardware should be T25. To make this install just a little bit easier, we got a power driven service kit. We got all the stuff you need. We got 3 gallons of oil as well as a transmission filter, and you can opt into a reusable pan gasket. I am a huge fan of these because it doesn't become sticky and stick to the case or the pan or anything. Next time you do any kind of work in there, you just drop that pan, pull the gasket out. When you get done, put it right back in and it's gonna seal up many times. We've used these things dozens of times on the same trans. For this install, we're just gonna go ahead and use the provided pan gasket just because kind of showcase what you're getting. So because of the semi-deep spacer, we've got these 2 screws out already. We do need to remove this 3rd one here. That way that spacer will bolt right into all 3 of those. We got our filter, we got our spacer, we got our hardware here. One thing that's nice about the spacer as well is it comes with an O-ring that seals against the valve body, so there's no way of any kind of air getting in there and causing cavitation. What we're gonna go ahead and do, let's get the screws in here. Before you go ahead and slap it in there, make sure that hole is lined up with there. I've seen some filters in backwards and obviously it doesn't work like it should. And that is one thing nice about the 3-bolt design, is that it's pretty self-explanatory and pretty hard to mess up. There we go. 1, 2, and 3. And for this is just a 5/32 hex driver. Go ahead and start those with. Factory torque spec on these guys is going to be a 40 inch-pounds. I like to just go until I see that steel ring on the filter starting to crush, and that way you don't have to have your torque wrench under here getting all dripped on. Just like that. Okay, so we got our bolt there, we got pan, and we got the gasket. This is my preferred way. I like to put the bolt in that notch there just so that way it has a little bit more leverage so it doesn't just try to twist it off. That's never going to be a problem. I've never had that happen, but it just makes me feel warm and fuzzy when I use that hole there. Like say, line it up with the gasket. And this is why we like to use this style of gasket versus some like the cheaper cork gaskets or rubber gaskets. With this guy here, you can just lay the gasket over top, something like that. And there you go. That's most of the way. Couple more bolts here, just on the cross side. Again, feed it through the gasket. Now she's good. We can start putting all the bolts in, just not finger tight, leave them a couple threads loose so we make sure everything goes in just fine, and then we can start snugging them up. Okay, I like to go around it a couple times with an impact just because as you go all the way around, you're going to crush that gasket a little bit. And then once we get close, just hit it with the torque wrench at 12 foot-pounds. Beep. Okay, there we go. We just went around a couple times until it stopped moving, and that's it. Yeah, this thing's in. All we're gonna do now is just add some fluid with that deep pan. We're gonna go ahead and just put 8 quarts in, and then from there we'll start checking it. Obviously we're gonna do our final checks with the engine running in neutral, make sure the fluid level is good. Thanks for following along, and I guess I'll catch you on the next one.